Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tacobout It Tuesday. I'm your host, Alexandra, with This is Improv, and we are here for another episode where we talk about the arts and the people who enjoy them. So today we have a very, very special guest with us, Mr. Mike Ficara.
Hello.
Hello.
I was excited to get the very, very special because I'm a long time watcher and I always hear everyone get the very, very special. So I was hoping I got that and I did. So
you did? Yeah, start. Of course. We do all the everyone's special. Everyone that comes here is a friend.
There you go.
It's so fun. So I know Mike from the David Cooper City Chamber of Commerce. But Mike, if you could introduce yourself, your little mini bio for the people.
Sure. It was a warm summer day, May 14th, 1980.
I can see it now.
It all started there, I'm the last of that great generation that or so the internet tells us in various memes. It was born and raised, half digital, half real life, if you will. I was born and raised here in South Florida. Which is why, I think the Davie Chamber holds a special place in my heart. I was born and raised in Pembroke Pines, but did a lot of stuff in Davie and Cooper City, obviously being in the area. Growing up down here, though, never really a good student in school, but I attended regularly. And
that's what matters.
Yeah. My parents thought, around high school time, well, maybe if we send him to Catholic school, that'll make him a better student, which it did not. So they sent me to Chaminade Madonna in good old Hollywood, Florida. Went there, had a great time. I really enjoyed it. It was a good experience. I, once again, did not do well academically, and that kind of plays into the story in a few seconds. But, I was prom king. I had a great time. I really enjoyed high school. And then saw all my friends go away to college, right? They went to UCF and UF and everything. And I got to go to back in the day, it was called BCC in Davie.
Oh, yeah.
We referred to it as beer can college back then. But, I went there not really knowing what I wanted to do. Great experience, though, honestly. Like, I really enjoyed the community college experience. I had a great time. But just kind of looked around, changed my major from everything from psychology to accounting to marketing. I never really knew what I wanted to do. But then I got a job in sales at Circuit City. And really kind of fell in love with that and was going to go kind of a managerial track there. But then that kind of fell off the wayside because they changed, their pay structure and they got a new owner. And then I really just didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't end up going to UCF for a year, but then I came back down here and I took a year off from college. And one of my teachers had just started at a brand new high school that opened up in Southwest Ranches, Archbishop McCarthy High School. And he had taught at Chaminade and came in. I was actually working in a restaurant at the time and said, hey, why don't you come substitute teach? And I said, sure, that sounds like an easy job. And I went in and did that. Not an easy job, but I fell in love with education. So I really just fell in love with everything about it. So, really subbed, ended up finishing my degree in psychology, ended up teaching. I got a minor in theology. I taught ethics and Bible for a while. I taught psychology. Then ironically, I went and got my master's degree in educational technology from, I looked at all the universities here in Florida and they were all like a master's degree in PowerPoint, but then Full Sail University was offering a master's degree in educational technology. And it was like totally different. If you don't know what Full Sail is, I'm sure because of, this is improv. I'm sure a lot of artsy people know what that is because it's basically like a film school, right? Like any major movie you've probably seen, someone from Full Sail has worked on it. So they had an educational master's that was just like totally different. This is back in 2010. And did that. And then I ended up saying, okay, well, now I've got, Full Sail is not cheap. So I was like, now I got to pay for this. So I looked for, another job in education and got an AP of curriculum at a school that actually ended up being a startup for an educational technology company. Long story short, that educational technology company got invested in by a guy by the name of Wayne Huizinga, who, if you're in South Florida, you know him. He used to own the Marlins and the Dolphins and all these other things. So he put a bunch of money into the company. I was promised a bunch of things, stock options, not from Wayne, but from the owners of the company, stock options, equity, my own private plane. I got none of that. And basically, when Wayne sold the company, two options. I could have gone back to teaching or I could have consulted. So I really said, you know what? I want to help other people start and grow businesses. And that's really what I do. I'm kind of like an outsourced COO at this point is kind of the title I use. I don't know if that's a direct representation, but, work with educational companies, real estate agents. I've now worked with everybody, small and large companies to help them really grow and scale their business is kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Yeah, you do a lot.
I guess, yeah. I tell her, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And the cool thing about what I do is like, I mean, I've done so many different things. Like I can't tell you like all the different, I worked with a guy that got me a job in Israel and we're on an oil rig doing something like, and then I'll be in like a corporate boardroom, of like a major telecommunications company. It's just weird. Like my like.
But I think that's a good thing. I think it's good for people to have like a bunch of, even if they are odd jobs, I don't think it's a bad thing because it just lets you see different places and personalities and work with different people. Yep. So I think that's awesome that you've been like ping ponged all over the place. So now you've got what we would say a Renaissance brain, like having a little bit of everything.
Yep. But jack of all trades, master of none, I think they say.
I recently saw, well, not recently, months ago, saw a video of you that you sent that was stand up.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about your experience in the arts and that comedy scene?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's one of those things. This was during that transition phase of like substitute teaching and doing everything. And stand-up comedy is something I always had. Everyone always told me I was funny. Oh, you're funny. But I was a jokester, right? And I think first off, let me say there is a big difference between making like 4 of your friends laugh and making a room full of people laugh, right? Which I don't have to tell you that. So I really wanted to do stand-up. To say I did it to any degree of success is definitely not, but I did it for fun. Right? It became like one of those hobbies that I really enjoyed. So I would do open mic nights and things like that. And it was obviously based on kind of my teaching at the time. I was single and in my mid-20s, so I had a lot of good jokes on that about living with my parents and being a Catholic school teacher. And I was really just top of everyone's mom's list that they wanted me to date their daughters, but their daughters were not very interested in me. So it was a lot of fun. It was challenging. I learned, it's funny because it was, and when I look back on that, first time going on stage, really nervous, right? So what did I do? I practiced, I did a bunch of things, I wrote things down, went up, and I think, I don't know what, the audience, if you've ever been to an open mic night, is you primarily have to bring a group of people, and it's a bunch of group of peoples. So my group was really, on the video of me doing it, it was actually my dad videoing it. So it sounded like I did really good. I don't know, because the 10 people around the camera were laughing a lot, or the room was. But it went really well. I was like, okay, I really like this. And then like I went again and did well. And then I was like, okay, I've got this. And then like I started like getting on stage and not practicing. And when I tell you like the difference between like even just the room itself and how I did, it was like getting punched in the face the times you didn't practice. It was like, oh, I'm good, I got this. You walked on stage and it was like you bombed, right? Because it was like I was like, oh, like I realized I'm not practicing. So really a big respect for that as an art, but man, what a grind. I think there's a lot of people that had success with it. I would have loved to do it as a career, but I didn't see it as a path that there was just a lot there. And I think it was just, you have to be really good and really consistent and sacrifice a lot to be successful with it. But I really, I love it. And it's something that every time I even go to a comedy show now, we just saw Jeremy Piven not too long ago at the Palm Beach Improv. And, I always try to go, and every time I'm there, I'm like, yeah, I can get up there again. I can do it again. So it calls me often, but it's been a while. It's been
like a siren from the sea.
Yes,
it calls.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I feel like, because Angelica and I have thought about this when we were in Chicago. Our teacher would always say, try it, try an open mic night. It doesn't hurt to try it. And then a bunch of classmates would go do it, and there would only be like 2 or 3 people who were like, I got this, and they would go up there and do it, and I'd be like, good luck to you, miss and sir. And for us, we just know that like we're really good at talking to people, but for me at least, to sit down and like write everything out and then go up there, I don't think I could. I feel like I'd go up there and just be like, okay, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
How you doing
like really
tonight?
Improv it,
Yeah. I don't think I could do the writing, which is funny because that's what Ryan Stiles from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yep.
He said that was his biggest thing, that he was like, oh God, I couldn't write anymore. I hated writing.
Yeah, and
So
it's funny too because there's two podcasts that I've fallen in love with over the pandemic. They just came out. One is the Sopranos podcast. They got one called Talking Sopranos from the old HBO show, the old mob show, and then the other one is Victory, the podcast, which is the Entourage. The two HBO shows from like when I was in my 20s. Those guys got together. They're rewatching the episodes and talking about it now. But to hear all the behind the scenes stuff they talk about, like they bring on the casting director and the lighting guy and like talk about auditions and all this stuff, it's just amazing to me, the arts and how much is invested in that craft, and how much people put into that craft and that activity. It's amazing to me, Yeah, and I even get this bug. I'm like, well, maybe I just turned 40, and I don't know whether it's because of, like I said, I really never picked a career, if you will, but it's worked out to this point. But I've always said well, maybe I'll do once the kids are all grown up, then I'll go into acting, and then I'll do that second acting, no pun intended. But I think one of the things that I think nowadays is even with the content you guys create, which I love, your Jebediah and all and all the good all the good videos. You don't have to, and even I look at the stuff my kids watch, right? Like when I was a kid, you watched TV, right? Mm-hmm. Now my kids watch Ryan's Toys and Roma and Diana and all the and what is it? It's just people with like this one girl Nastia. I think she's like the biggest YouTuber. It's not even in English, and they watch it and they love it. It's just these kids playing with toys and videos. So the thing I do love about the arts is the barrier's sort of been taken away. Like if you really want to create your own series, or just like you guys are doing, which is why I love following you, is you're creating content, right? It's just you just create content, and I think it's you can be discovered or have a show that people enjoy or become YouTube famous, if you will, which I think that's what every kid now, it's I think I saw an article the other day that more kids want to be YouTube. Yeah, I want to be a famous YouTuber than they did doctors and lawyers. Those are all boring professions now, So I love that the barrier is not there anymore, because really you can create your own content and let your audiences engage, and if it's legit, people are going to buy into it. If it's not, it'll crash and burn, So
yeah. Definitely. But and when you do, so you've done some stand-up, but have you ever thought about doing improv, or have you ever had any other acting experience?
I have not. Well, I'm married, so there's and I got kids. I act all the time. Yes, I'm interested. Yes, I'm listening. No, not in the formal sense. I did do a lot of. I've always created a lot of content for the internet, though, through my business and things like that. I had a good period there where I've actually gotten away from it. I really want to get back to it, where I would just get on every day and, do a little dance, do a little motivational thing. But I never done improv, but I've always been interested in it. It intrigues me because I think, one of the things I will say about the pandemic is, I used to travel a good amount, and I've been, I built an office in my garage, which is great. But on the same hand, I feel uncreative. I feel like I don't have an outlet. So I haven't done it, but it's definitely something I'd love to do,
That makes sense. Sometimes in Jokin, I will just take improv classes again, because you want to keep from when you teach and help. It's kind of like you need to step back into yourself and go, well, I'm not done learning. You're never really done learning. Right. And it's good to get a boost of, okay, what I'm doing is right, or what my thought process is correct, and then just get the gears oiled up again to keep going.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's true. The idea of you never do stop learning, right? No matter what you do, no matter what your craft is, you always need to continue to develop and grow. I don't think you ever reach that. And I think that's even going back to when I did improv, that was the thing. You don't ever got it, You don't ever got it. And if you look at the grades, what makes the grades in any industry or anything, whether it's sports or acting or comedy or whatever it is, and I think that's what I've learned a lot of from these, listening to these podcasts, is these guys really grind it out, and they really are constantly educating, still going to acting classes, things like that. It's not like I think we have this misconception in especially at a young age that you learn it and then you go, right? Oh, well, I'll go to college, get a degree, and then I'm good. It's no, you learn for the rest of your life. If you want to be good at something, you better invest the time into it,
Oh, so. Yeah, 100%, especially when it comes to any artistic practice. It's if you don't, like I said before, if you don't oil the gears, you're not gonna, it's not gonna come out, whether that's with teaching as well, like having good communication skills with your students, making sure that you understand them and their thought process. I mean, all of those different things. And even working in corporate, when you're working with big businesses, you got to make sure you understand what's happening around you and learn from the people around you. Even if you are, you know, a big man on campus, you gotta
Yep.
you
No,
gotta
it's true.
keep
True.
going, you know. So if you're prepping for something, like whether it's a big meeting, presentation, or before you were doing your stand-up, what's a warm-up you would do for yourself? Because I feel like you're someone who would have a warm-up. Am I right?
It's usually around food, you know, food is comfort for me. So I would always, we were talking earlier or in the pre-interview about coffee. Coffee is a big, honestly, like I'll sit with a cup of coffee, but I'll run through. Now that I've gotten older, it's really like the night before a big presentation or something like that, coffee and a cigar. Like I hope my doctor's not listening, but like it's just what calms me, right? Like,
Yeah.
like more than alcohol, coffee and a cigar will I'll just run through it in my mind. You know, I think that the biggest thing, even when I was doing comedy and presentations and things like that, it was like I would run through it in my mind, but physically doing it, I would practice the presentation, you know, or practice the talk, or even like I said, knowing I was going to be on with you, I make sure I watch the episodes before, learn, think about what you're going to say. And I think too, there's some things like the story, well, tell us about yourself. Like I pretty much got that. Like that's usually in a presentation. Okay, how am I gonna which version of that story am I gonna tell? Right? Because there's the short, the long, and because I think no matter what I did when I was teaching, when I was doing stand-up comedy, whether I'm doing a presentation right now to gain a client or help a client grow, it's always about a personal relationship, right? So I was always like, okay, how can I make a personal connection with people? How could I be vulnerable and tell them a little bit something about me? You know what I mean? So whether it's like, hey, I didn't do good in school, right? Or I've got 4 kids, or I'm married, or I'm tired, or I'd always try to come out with a vulnerability because I feel like that disarms people, right? Because I think a lot of times in presentations, what people try to do is they try to come out and tell you how good and important they are. It's like, well, hello, I'm the Harvard graduate with the 9.9 GPA, and I'm worth $1 billion. It's like, well, if someone's sitting in the audience, they're going to be like, yeah, I don't connect with that. You know what I mean? And I think that when you're talking up or down the spectrum, right? Because and I think teaching teaches you that, right? Because right away, those kids are like, this guy, I don't want to listen to him, right? The majority of them. And I think, and then it's like, but if you build that, and I think there's a lot of, I think I was a good teacher. I was a very good teacher. The great teachers really knew how to connect with the kids. And when I say they knew how to connect with the kids, it's not like they knew how to get them to understand that, quantum physics or whatever the heck the concept was. They knew how to connect with them as people, but they also knew how to create boundaries that still allowed learning to happen. And that's a talent, right? And I think, and in any industry you're in, I think if you can go into a room, make a connection with people, but still set the boundaries that need to be there in that room, you win every time. What happens is most people go one way or the other. They try to set up too many boundaries, and then it's like people are just trying to break out, right? Or they're just too loose and nothing gets done. So I think it's finding that sweet spot. And when I'm preparing, I'm always like, okay, how do I live in that space, right? To where I'm not too far one way or the other. That's the biggest thing for me, is just kind of going through that process of, and that's always a key concept I've looked at. How do I kind of disarm and make myself vulnerable so that I can engage, but then also set up the boundaries so that the conversation in the room goes in the direction I want it to go in.
Definitely.
Yeah, because then all of a sudden the audience doesn't want to let you down, or it's like parenting, right? I don't want to let you down. Like you said, you want to let the principal down. Everyone has, basically a little skin in the game. There's that buy-in from everybody in the room.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I also want to ask, if I didn't know you and I saw you walking down the street, I was like, who's that? What can't I tell just by looking at you?
What can't you tell just by looking? I'm a before model? No. What could you tell just by looking at me? That's a good question. Probably that I'm a father of 4. I think would be would be the biggest thing, because I think too, like, and there's this misconception I have about being 40 is that I'm still 20, and I feel like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm still young, or I'm still this, or I'm still that, or like I still roll my windows down and blast hip hop music really loud. Which was awkward the other night when I pulled up next to like 65 people on their bicycles and I had Tupac blaring out of the car. That was a little awkward, but
you gave them some support music.
Yeah, they were laughing at me, but I was like, I really don't care. So yeah, I think if I didn't have my kids with me, that I was a father, because I think that's a big part of who I am, and I think it's short of me getting all four of them tattooed on my back, I don't think you would you would know that if you saw me just walking down the street.
Yeah. I remember the first time we were in one of the education board meetings. Yeah. And you were like, oh yeah, my kids, there's 4 of them. And I was like, whoa, no.
Yeah. And everyone's like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, I know, listen, I have 4 kids, but I also know people that have 3 dogs. And to me, taking care of 4 kids is easier than taking care of 3 dogs. I got one in the span of the neck. So I said, just depends on your outlook on life,
hey, dogs are great practice for having kids. That is for sure. And they take a little bit more maintenance sometimes.
Yep. And I think it's like anything in life, those people like, well, I'm like, well, what choice do I have? Like, I can't not do it, So I think that's just, and I think I'm used to that in life, right? It's just, I've always kind of thrown the curveballs. So it's been like, all right, we'll figure it out, so.
Yeah. For one of our last questions, I want to ask if you have any words of wisdom for anyone out there, since you have experienced the arts, but you also are very good at helping people with business and things like that. So if you have any sort of words of leadership or anything like that for people.
I think especially in the arts today and in business and whatever it is, you are a brand now. Like your question of like, if people saw you walking down the street is like, man, like I may recognize you from the internet and you're not even famous yet. You know what I mean? Like, so I think no matter what you're doing, whether you want to be a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, an actor, a singer, whatever it is, you're, even if somebody wants to sell me something, I Google them on the internet.
Yeah.
It's just your brand and who you are is so important. And if you're not telling your story, someone else is. So I think it's very important, no matter what you are. And a lot of people say, well, I don't like being on social media. I don't like people being up on my business. Okay, that's fine. But your business is out there. Like if you Google your name, your credit reports, your court dates, your speeding tickets, your home that you bought is all public information, right? So unless you want that stuff showing up first, I suggest getting on the internet and telling your story. I think it's important, whether it's in video, whether it's it doesn't matter what you do. Have your story, have your presence on the internet. I'm a firm believer. I purchased all my kids' names as a .com. So even I tell people like they're like, where do we find you on the internet? Oh, MikeFicara.com. But I bought all my kids their names and .com so that when they're ready, they can tell their story on the internet and direct people to where they want to go and dictate that. And I think that's so important nowadays. And I think especially in the arts, it's your opportunity to shine an obviously brand, but your brand and your name and everything you put on the internet is forever, and everything you don't put on the internet is forever. So you need to make sure that the story that's being told is being crafted by you, and not crafted by someone else. I think that is the most important thing. And I think own your name. If you don't own your name.com, your first and your last name.com, then buy that. Especially if you have a unique name. I know it's hard if you're like, Jane Smith, you're probably, SOL. But if you have a unique name, buy it, make sure you have it, because there's value in that. There's value in your name, and there's value in your reputation online. I think it's very important to hone that, craft that, and make it be the story you want to be told.
Definitely. Heck yeah, dude. That's good advice. It's true. How are ways that people can keep up with you?
Sure, yeah. No, the MikeFicara.com is the easiest way to, it's got links on my social media, a little bio about me, everything there. That's really the best way to find me. I'm at Mike Ficara on all social media platforms as well. But Mike Ficara is the best way to find about me and all the great companies that I work with, like Brand Ethos and Top Score Writing and TLC. There's also links to the clients that I work with, because I believe in telling people about that, even though some people I know always hide their client list. I'm like, why not just shout it to the world? So that's a little bit about me and where I'm at. So
nice. Cool. If you would like to keep up with Mike's journey, anything will be linked down below in the description. So please make sure to go to those sites and support people in Florida, you know. But thank you so much for coming on here and having a conversation. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Please don't forget to check out the description, not only for Mike, but for improv classes. There are classes for improvisation, writing, corporate team building, kids classes, teen classes, adult classes, you know, all the classes. You can sign up today at www.thisisimprov.com. If you have any questions whatsoever about any of our programs, please don't be afraid to email info@thisisimprov.com. If you like histories, mysteries, and ghost stories, we have a podcast called This Is Legends of Yesterday, where we talk about all those things and more. So if you have a story, you can either record yourself or email it to us. And please make sure to let us know if you would like to remain anonymous so we can keep that for you. I want to say a big thank you to our very, very special guest, Mike, once more. I hope that you have an amazing rest of your Tuesday. I hope you eat some tacos.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.